The deal of a lifetime. Jax Carter had always been unlucky. He was a broke engineer working small repair jobs in the outer colonies. His dream was to own his own ship or maybe even a small station, but dreams cost money, money he didn't have. So when he saw a mystery auction online, he couldn't resist. One abandoned space station for sale, only $1. The listing had almost no details, just an old blurry image of a floating station, lost in deep space. Most people thought it was a scam. Some joked that it was haunted. But Jax, he was desperate. $1. He laughed. What's the worst that could happen? With a single click, he became the owner of a space station. Arrival at the station. Jax borrowed an old cargo shuttle from his friend and set off to find his new home. The journey took 3 days, flying through forgotten space lanes where no one traveled anymore. When he finally arrived, his heart skipped a beat. The station floated in the darkness, massive and ancient. It wasn't a tiny research lab like he had expected. It was a war-class station, built for something bigger. The metal hull was covered in battle scars, deep burns, and old weapon marks. This thing survived a war, Jax whispered. But which war? His shuttle docked with the main entrance. The station's doors opened on their own. No security checks. No alarms. It was as if the station had been waiting for him. Jax hesitated for a second. His gut told him something was wrong. But curiosity won. With a deep breath, he stepped inside. The silent halls. The air smelled old and dusty. The lights flickered, some broken, some still working. The walls were covered in old markings, strange alien symbols mixed with human writing. "Looks abandoned," he muttered. But then, something moved. A shadow in the distance. Jax froze. His hand reached for the small plasma cutter on his belt. "Hello," he called. Silence. Then, a whisper. "You shouldn't be here." Jax spun around, heart racing. The voice wasn't human. It was soft, almost musical, feminine. And then, from the darkness, she stepped out. The mysterious alien woman. Jax's breath caught in his throat. She was beautiful, but not human. Her skin glowed faintly blue, her eyes sharp and golden. Her long hair floated slightly, as if gravity had little effect on her. She wore a sleek, metallic suit, advanced tech Jax had never seen before. She wasn't alone. 4 more women appeared from the shadows, each different from the other. One had dark crimson skin, her hair braided in silver chains. Another had pale white scales, her fingers ending in razor-sharp claws. They all had one thing in common. They were staring at Jax like he was the first human they had seen in years. Jax swallowed hard. Hi. The blue-skinned woman tilted her head. "How did you get here?" I bought this station. For $1. Silence. Then laughter. The crimson-skinned woman smirked. "You bought a prison for $1. Jax's stomach dropped. "A what?" The golden-eyed woman stepped closer, her gaze unreadable. "This station is not abandoned. It was locked. And you just set it free." Jax's pulse skyrocketed. "Wait, set what free?" The lights flickered violently. A deep warning siren echoed through the station. The air suddenly felt heavier. And then, from the intercom, a robotic voice spoke. "Warning. System rebooty in pro jury estas. All containment los psiques disabili." Jax's blood ran cold. Something else was here. Something that should have never been woken up. The message. Before Jax could ask more questions, a loud beeping noise echoed through the corridor. A holographic screen appeared in front of him. A message recorded years ago. An old man's face flickered on the screen. His eyes were filled with fear. "If you're hearing this, that means the station has been sold. You must leave immediately. If you don't get out in the next 24 hours, you will never escape." The message glitched out. Jax's heart pounded. Okay, what the hell is going on? The blue-skinned woman grabbed his arm. Her grip was shockingly strong. You have no idea what you've done, human, she said, her voice almost a whisper. And then, from deep within the station, a low, guttural growl echoed through the halls. Something had woken up. Something hungry. The mystery of the alien women. Jax Carter had made a mistake. A $1 mistake that could cost him his life. The space station was not abandoned. The beautiful alien women were not stranded survivors. And the worst part, something else had just woken up inside the station. A deep, rumbling growl vibrated through the cold metal walls. The kind of growl that didn't belong to anything human. Jax swallowed hard. His fingers twitched toward his belt, where his plasma cutter rested. A pathetic excuse for a weapon against whatever was lurking in the shadows. The golden-eyed alien woman standing in front of him didn't seem surprised by the noise. Instead, she tightened her grip on his arm, her unnatural strength making it impossible for him to move. "You need to listen to me," she said, her voice calm but deadly serious. "This station is a tomb." Jax's heart pounded. A tomb for what? The lights flickered again. Somewhere deep in the station, a heavy door slammed open. The crimson-skinned woman with silver chains braided in her hair took a cautious step forward. Her violet eyes glowed faintly in the dim lighting. "We don't have time to explain," she said, glancing toward the corridor behind them. "It's already awake." "Wahid is already awake," Jax snapped, feeling his frustration rise. "Someone tell me what the hell is going on." The blue-skinned woman, the first to reveal herself, let out a slow breath. "We are secrets of the prisoners." Jax blinked. "You're what?" The golden-eyed woman let go of his arm. "We are the reason this station was locked away. We are the ones it was built to contain." Jax took an uneasy step back. Wait. Hold on. You mean you're prisoners?" The blue-skinned woman hesitated before nodding. "Once, yes, but not because we were criminals." The crimson-skinned woman scoffed. "That depends on who you ask." Jax frowned. "Okay, then why were you locked up?" A long pause. The golden-eyed woman glanced at the others, then back at Jax. "Because we were built." Jax felt his stomach drop. "Built?" The white-scaled woman, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. Her voice was almost a whisper, smooth as silk. "We were created as weapons." Jax stared at them. His mind screamed at him to run, to get out of this station as fast as possible. But another part of him, the engineer, the curious fool, wanted answers. "What kind of weapons?" he asked. The blue-skinned woman pressed her lips together. "The kind that should not exist." A chill ran down Jax's spine. And then the station shook violently. The awakening. The tremors were strong enough to make Jax stumble. The overhead lights flickered madly, turning everything into a mess of shifting shadows. The air grew colder, like something was draining the warmth out of the station. And then came the sound. A metallic screech, like nails on steel, echoing from the deep corridors. Jax whipped around, his breath catching. "Okay, tell me that was just the station shifting." The golden-eyed woman shook her head. "No." "Then what the hell was that?" The crimson-skinned woman's eyes darkened. "That is what kept us locked up for so long." Jax's pulse thundered. "Are you saying there's something else in here?" Before anyone could answer, the intercom crackled to life. "Containment breach detected. Biological entity activating. All non-authorized personnel must evacuate." Jax felt like the floor had dropped beneath him. "Yeah, no, that's it. We're leaving." But the golden-eyed woman didn't move. Neither did the others. Jax stared at them. "Did you not hear that? That means us. We are the non-authorized personnel." The blue-skinned woman's gaze was locked on the corridor ahead, waiting, watching. "No," she said softly. "It means you." Jax's stomach nodded. What? You are the only unauthorized person here, she said. This station recognizes us. And then, before Jax could even process what she meant, something huge moved in the darkness ahead. A silhouette. Massive. Wrong. Not human. Jax barely had time to react before it let out a low, snarling growl. And charge. A race against death. Jax had no idea what it was, only that it had multiple legs, too many jagged teeth, and eyes that burned red like dying stars. He didn't wait to figure out what else it had. Run, he shouted. The alien women did not run. Instead, the crimson-skinned woman stepped forward. With a wicked grin, she flexed her fingers, and claws made of pure plasma extended from her hands. Jax gawked. Okay, what the actual hell? Before he could finish, the creature lunged. The blue-skinned woman moved like a ghost, vanishing in a blur of motion. 1 second she was beside Jax. The next she was on the creature's back, her hands glowing with some kind of energy field. The others moved too, each one revealing a different power Jax had never seen before. In less than 10 seconds, the thing that had been hunting them was now on the ground, twitching, defeated. Jax stared. What are you people? He whispered. The golden-eyed woman turned to him, eyes glowing faintly. Not people, Jax Carter. She stepped closer. We are the station's last defense. Attack on the station. Jax Carter was out of his depth. 1 minute, he thought he had bought a cheap space station for $1. The next, he was standing inside an ancient battle-scarred station, trapped with alien women who were not just beautiful, but dangerous. And then there was the thing that had just tried to kill them. Jax was still trying to catch his breath. The creature, whatever it was, lay motionless on the cold metal floor. Its thick, armored body still twitched as the last sparks of life drained away. Its black, oily blood pooled around it, sizzling slightly where it touched the ground. His heart pounded in his ears. What the hell was that? Jax demanded, taking the shaky step backward. And why was it trying to eat me? The golden-eyed woman, who seemed to be the leader of the alien women, kneeled next to the corpse. She pressed her fingers against its skull, her expression grim. This, she said, is what hunted us here. Jax frowned. Hunted you? I thought you said you were prisoners. The blue-skinned woman, who had moved so fast during the fight that she seemed to teleport, stepped beside him. Prisoners, experiments, soldiers, she shrugged. Depends on how you look at it. The crimson-skinned woman, the one with deadly plasma claws, smirked. And now, thanks to you, the hunters know we're awake. Jax's stomach dropped. What do you mean? Before anyone could answer, the station shook violently. Alarms blared from the intercom system. The flickering emergency lights turned blood red. Incoming hostile ships detected. Weapons locked onto station coordinates. Jax turned toward the alien women, panic rising in his chest. Tell me that's not what I think it is. The golden-eyed woman's expression was stone cold. They found us. Nowhere left to run. Jax had never felt more helpless in his life. Through the station's cracked observation window, he could see them. 3 enemy warships emerging from the darkness of space. They weren't just any ships. They were Valkyrie Hunter-class destroyers, ships designed to wipe out entire fleets. And they were aiming right at the station. Why are they attacking? Jax asked, his voice rising. The blue-skinned woman folded her arms. Because we're here. And because you woke us up. Jax's pulse thundered. Okay, well, maybe I'll just, I don't know, call them and tell them this was all a mistake. The crimson-skinned woman laughed. Oh, human, that's adorable. Before Jax could argue, the intercom crackled again. Weapons system charging. Shields at 20% power. Enemy warships preparing to fire in 90 seconds. Jax froze. We have shields, right? Good shields. The golden-eyed woman sighed. This station is 1,000 years old. The shields won't last 5 minutes against those warships. Jax clenched his fists. Then we need to get out of here. The blue-skinned woman turned to him, her golden gaze piercing. And go where? Jax opened his mouth, closed it. He had no answer. Then the station shook again, but this time it wasn't from the enemy ships. It was coming from inside the station. The creature's body was gone. Jax's blood ran cold. The monster within. The black oily blood left a trail leading deeper into the station. Jax stared at it, feeling an unsettling tightness in his chest. I thought you killed that thing, he whispered. The golden-eyed woman's jaw tightened. So did I. Then a new sound filled the air. A deep, wet, gurgling growl. It wasn't just one creature. There were more. Jax's breath hitched. The crimson-skinned woman stepped forward, her plasma claws igniting once more. Well, she muttered, guess we get round two. Jax backed away. You guys fight the space demons. I'm gonna. Boom. The station shook violently. Sparks rained down from the ceiling. Metal panels groaned as the structure struggled to stay intact. The enemy warships had opened fire. Hull breach detected. Critical damage sustained. Jax whipped around toward the control panel. We're sitting ducks. The golden-eyed woman exhaled sharply. Not if we fight back. Jax frowned. How? You just said our shields suck. She turned to him, her golden eyes glowing faintly. The shields do. But the weapons? She smirked. There's something else entirely. Jax glanced at the weapon console. It was flickering, barely functional. They're online. The blue-skinned woman nodded. And unlike their ships, ours were designed to destroy entire planets. Jax blinked. I'm sorry. What? The crimson-skinned woman grinned. Let's see how they like fighting a station that bites back. The counterattack. Jax had never fired a station-size cannon before, and he wasn't entirely sure he wanted to. But with alien monsters inside the station and enemy warships outside trying to blast them into space dust, he didn't have a choice. Just press that button, the golden-eyed woman instructed. It will do the rest. Jax hesitated. You sure? Because if this thing blows up the wrong way. Press the button. Jax took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and slammed his fist onto the control panel. The station came alive. Outside, ancient planet killer cannons emerged from the station's hull, glowing with raw energy. Inside, the intercom blared. Primary weapons charged. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The station shook violently as pure devastation erupted from its cannons. Outside, the first enemy warship vanished in an explosion of blue fire. The second took a direct hit, its hull splitting apart like a tin can. The third ship tried to flee, but it was too late. One last blinding shot from the station's ancient cannons, and the warship was gone. Jax stared in absolute shock. The golden-eyed woman turned to him, a smirk on her lips. Still think you wasted your dollar? Jax exhaled. Maybe not. But before he could feel relieved, another growl echoed through the station. The monsters inside were not done yet. The truth about the space station. Jax Carter had just committed mass murder. Well, sort of. He didn't mean to. He was just trying to stay alive. But pressing that big glowing red button had resulted in something catastrophic. 3 enemy warships, obliterated in seconds by the station's forgotten superweapons. Now he stood in the wreckage of the control room, smoke and sparks raining down from broken panels, his fingers still shaking from what he had just done. He slowly turned to the golden-eyed woman, who was watching him with an unreadable expression. So, Jax croaked, swallowing hard. That was a thing that happened. The blue-skinned woman, standing beside him, folded her arms. You handled it well. Jax let out a dry laugh. Handled it well. I just fired a station-sized death cannon that vaporized 3 warships like they were made of cardboard. The crimson-skinned woman, still grinning, placed a clawed hand on his shoulder. "Congratulations, human," she said. "You're now officially a war criminal." Jax turned pale. "What?" The golden-eyed woman finally spoke. "She's joking." A pause. "Mostly." Jax groaned, running a shaking hand through his hair. "Great, just great. And let me guess, whoever those guys were, their friends are probably on their way." The blue-skinned woman nodded. "Most likely. The Valkyrie don't take kindly to losing their hunters." Jax inhaled sharply. "And what do we do when they show up?" The golden-eyed woman gave him a long look. And then she said something that sent chills down his spine. "We survive." Secrets in the dark. Before Jax could process what that meant, a deep, guttural growl echoed through the station. Not from the outside. From inside. Jax spun around, his heart hammering. "Tell me that's just the station shifting." The blue-skinned woman didn't even blink. "It's not." The station's damaged lights flickered violently, and the air suddenly felt thicker, like the entire station was breathing. Jax stiffened. Then he saw it. The monster was still alive. No, there were more of them. A black, shifting mass slithered across the floor of the corridor, merging with the walls, twisting, changing. It was part organic, part machine, and its eyes, dozens of them, flashed red in the darkness. Jax backpedaled fast. Nope. Nope. I am not dealing with space demons today." The crimson-skinned woman snapped her claws together, plasma flaring around her fingers. "Oh, but you are." And then, all hell broke loose. The fight for survival. The creature lunged. Jax barely had time to throw himself out of the way before it slammed into the control console, sending sparks and debris flying in all directions. The blue-skinned woman vanished in a blur of speed, reappearing behind the beast with a glowing blade in hand. With a swift motion, she sliced through one of its many limbs, but instead of collapsing, the severed arm morphed into something else. A weapon. Jax's stomach twisted. That thing is learning. The golden-eyed woman was already moving. Her hands glowed with a golden energy field, and with a simple wave, the entire corridor shook as the creature was slammed against the metal walls by an invisible force. Jax stared. Telekinesis. Are you kidding me? The golden-eyed woman didn't answer. She focused, keeping the writhing creature pinned against the wall. "It won't hold forever," she called out. The crimson-skinned woman grinned. "Then let's make it count." She lunged forward, plasma claws igniting, and in a single, brutal motion, she tore through the creature's chest, ripping out its core. The monster let out a deafening screech, a sound so unnatural that it made Jax's bones vibrate. And then, just like that, it collapsed. The air grew still. Jax exhaled. "Please tell me that was the last one." Silence. Then, "Warning. Containment breach. DETCTED in CT-ST2R5. Jax groaned. Of course there are more. The warlord's secret. The golden-eyed woman tensed at the announcement. Sector 5. The blue-skinned woman turned sharply. That's the warlord's chamber. Jax blinked. The what now? The golden-eyed woman exhaled. The true owner of this station. A warlord who built this place as a weapon. Before he was betrayed. Jax's skin prickled. Betrayed by who? The golden-eyed woman's eyes darkened. By us. Jax's mind reeled. Hold on. What do you mean by us? You said you were prisoners. The blue-skinned woman sighed. That was a lie. Jax's heart pounded. So, what were you, his bodyguards? His soldiers? The crimson-skinned woman smirked. Worse. Jax clenched his fists. Then what the hell were you? The golden-eyed woman looked him in the eyes, her expression unreadable. We were his weapons. Jax froze. The truth hit him like a meteor. They weren't just prisoners. They were designed to be living weapons, And this station was never meant to be a home. It was meant to be a battlefield. And now, whatever had been locked away in Sector 5 was waking up. The golden-eyed woman turned away. "We need to leave. Now." Jax's mouth went dry. "And what happens if we don't?" She glanced back. And for the first time since he had met her, he saw fear in her golden eyes. Then the warlord wakes up. The betrayal. Jax Carter had trusted them. That was his biggest mistake. The 5 alien women, stunning, mysterious, and deadly, had led him to believe they were prisoners on this station, victims of some forgotten war. But the truth, they weren't captives. They were the warlord's greatest weapons. And now, the real warlord was waking up. Jax swallowed hard, staring at the golden-eyed woman, the one who had seemed like their leader, the one who had been making all the decisions since he arrived. "You lied to me," he said, his voice quiet but edged with betrayal. She didn't deny it. "I did," she admitted, her golden eyes unreadable. Jax's pulse hammered in his ears. The station's alarms were still blaring, warning of the containment breach in Sector 5. The warrior in the dark was waking up, and Jax wasn't sure whose side he was on anymore. The warlock's tomb. The air inside the station had grown thick, charged with a power that made Jax's skin crawl. The walls hummed, like the station itself was alive, waiting, anticipating something. The golden-eyed woman turned toward the others. "We need to move. Now." Jax scoffed. "Oh, now you're giving orders, right after admitting you've been lying to me this whole time." The crimson-skinned woman, the one with the deadly plasma claws, grinned at him. "He's adorable when he's angry." Jax glared. "I just found out I might be stuck on a death station with 5 walking war crimes, so yeah, I'm a little mad." The blue-skinned woman, who had been mostly silent, sighed. "We don't have time for this. If the warlord wakes up, none of this will matter." Jax exhaled sharply, rubbing a hand over his face. "Fine, but someone better explain what the hell is down there." The golden-eyed woman hesitated for the first time. "Not what," she said softly. "Who?" "The ghost of a tyrant." The group made their way through the dark corridors, moving quickly, shadows shifting around them. Jax had no idea what they were walking into. All he knew was that whatever was waking up in Sector 5 had been locked away for a reason. After several twists and turns, they finally reached it, a massive vault door covered in strange alien markings. It was ancient, older than the station itself, humming with a power that made Jax's bones ache. "This is it," the golden-eyed woman murmured. Jax frowned. "This doesn't look like a prison cell. It looks like a tomb." The blue-skinned woman's lips pressed into a thin line. "That's exactly what it is." Jax's gut twisted. "You buried him here." The golden-eyed woman nodded. "We didn't kill him. We couldn't, so we did the only thing we could. We locked him away and shut down the station." Jax stared at the vault door. It was cracking. Thin, jagged veins of red light split across the metal, pulsing like a heartbeat. Jax felt his chest tighten with unease. "You said you couldn't kill him. Why?" The golden-eyed woman met his gaze, her expression haunted. "Because he isn't just a warlord." The air inside the vault hummed louder. The red light flared. And then, a voice. Deep, cold, ancient. "You traitors think you can keep me buried forever." Jax's blood ran cold. The golden-eyed woman's fingers tightened into fists. "It's too late." The vault exploded. A shockwave of raw energy blasted outward, sending Jax flying backwards into the wall. His vision blurred. His ears rang. When the dust settled, he felt it before he saw it. A presence, heavy, immense, wrong. Jax forced his head up. A tall, armored figure stood in the wreckage of the vault, dripping with energy, his golden armor cracked but still gleaming. His eyes burned red, and he was looking directly at Jax. The warlord had risen. The turning point. Jax tried to move. His muscles refused to obey. The air around him felt like gravity had increased tenfold, pressing him down. The warlord took a slow step forward, his massive form radiating raw power. His gaze shifted to the alien women. "You dare to stand before me again?" His voice was like thunder, vibrating through the metal walls. The golden-eyed woman stepped forward. "You should have stayed buried." The warlord chuckled, a dark, hollow sound. "And you should have been better at keeping me buried." With a wave of his hand, the station's lights flickered and died. Total darkness. Jax's heart hammered. Oh, that's not good. Then, in the blackness, the warlord whispered, "Let's see who is truly loyal." And just like that, everything changed. The betrayal. Jax heard the faintest movement beside him, a sharp click. Before he could react, a sudden, searing pain tore through his chest. Jax staggered. A blade, a thin, glowing plasma knife, was buried in his side. He barely had time to register who had stabbed him before he collapsed to his knees, choking on his own breath. And when he looked up, it was her. The blue-skinned woman. Her eyes, once cold and distant, now burned with silent obedience. Jax's mind reeled. "You." She looked down at him. "I never betrayed him," she murmured. Jax's vision blurred. His breath came shallow and weak. The warlord smiled, and in that moment, Jax realized he had been a pawn in their game the whole time. Everything. The station, the warships, the fight. It was never about him. It was always about him. The warlord had never lost his army. And now Jax was just one more casualty in his war. The final battle. A betrayal written in blood. Jax Carter couldn't breathe. Pain flared through his chest like liquid fire, the plasma blade still buried in his side. He staggered, his vision blurring as blood dripped from the wound, pooling on the cold metal floor. Above him, the warrior king stood, his golden armor cracked but still gleaming, his red eyes glowing like a dying sun. The blue-skinned woman, the one Jax had started to trust, ripped the blade free from his body. Jax gasped, dropping to his knees. He felt cold. So cold. "You?" His voice was barely a whisper. "You betrayed me." The blue-skinned woman gazed down at him, her golden eyes empty. "I never betrayed him," she said softly. Jax felt like the air had been punched from his lungs. All this time, he thought he was helping them. But he was just another piece in their war. The golden-eyed woman, the one who had led Jax through this nightmare, lunged forward. "You, traitor," she snarled, her hands glowing with golden light as she swung a blast of energy toward the blue-skinned woman. But the warlord was faster. With a simple flick of his wrist, he caught the attack midair, the golden energy twisting into his palm like it belonged to him. Then he crushed it. The golden-eyed woman staggered back, eyes wide. Jax felt his heartbeat slow. This wasn't a fight they could win. This was a massacre waiting to happen. The war begins. The station shook violently as the warlord stepped forward. "Did you truly believe you could bury me?" he said, his voice a deep growl, echoing through the hollow corridors. The crimson-skinned woman growled back, her plasma claws igniting in a burning red light. "We can damn well try again." She lunged. For a second, Jax thought she might land a hit, but before she could reach him, the warlord lifted a hand. And she froze, her body locked in place, suspended in midair. The warlord's eyes burned brighter. "You forget who made you." Then, with a simple clench of his fist, the crimson-skinned woman screamed. A sickening crack echoed through the air. Jax gasped. Her body dropped, motionless. Dead. Jax's mind screamed, but his body was too weak to move. The golden-eyed woman roared, her powers flaring again. But this time, the warlord turned his attention to her. "You were always my favorite," he mused, tilting his head. "A shame you had to turn against me." Jax forced himself to stand. His knees buckled. Blood soaked his shirt. But he wasn't going to let this monster win, even if it was the last thing he did. Jax's last stand. You know, Jax coughed, spitting blood onto the floor. For a guy who calls himself a warlord, you sure do talk a lot. The warlord turned his glowing gaze toward him. Jax's fingers trembled as he reached for his belt. His plasma cutter was still there. Small, useless against something like this. But there was one thing the warlord didn't know. Jax had been studying the station. He had seen its secrets. And if the warlord wanted power, Jax was going to give it to him. With a final burst of strength, Jax slammed his hand onto a nearby control panel. A hidden screen flickered to life. And on it, a single command. OVERID. Cori MELTDODN sequence EINITIED. The warlord's expression finally changed. You fool, he growled. You'll destroy everything. Jax grinned weakly, his knees threatening to give out. Yeah, he whispered. That's the point. The end of the station. The station screamed as alarms blared across the halls. Warning. Core OVERLOAD in Piro Juries. Total destruction in T-3 minutes. The warrior king turned, his fury igniting the air around him. The golden-eyed woman grabbed Jax's arm. We need to go, she shouted. Jax barely had time to react before she lifted him onto her shoulders, carrying him as she ran. The station was collapsing. Metal ripped apart, flames erupted from the floor, and the hallways twisted as the core spiraled into meltdown. The warlord let out a furious, earth-shaking roar. But he was too late. The golden-eyed woman sprinted through the corridors, dodging falling debris, reaching the only escape pod still intact. Jax's vision swam, darkness closing in around him. He barely felt it when the golden-eyed woman threw him inside the pod and slammed the door shut. Then, a deafening explosion. The pod blasted away from the station, just as the entire structure erupted in a supernova of fire and destruction. Jax's last thought before unconsciousness took him. He had won. But at what cost? The aftermath. When Jax woke up, he was in a ship. A real one. Not the ruined death trap he had bought for $1. The golden-eyed woman sat beside him, watching him silently. You're alive, she said softly. Jax coughed. Not sure how. Thought I was a goner back there. You almost were, she admitted. Jax exhaled, staring at the ceiling. And the warlord? She was quiet for a long time. Dead? Jax asked hopefully. Her golden eyes darkened. Not yet, she whispered. Jax's stomach twisted. Then we're not done, are we? He muttered. The golden-eyed woman shook her head. No. Jax let out a slow breath. He had survived. But the war was just beginning. And this time, he wasn't just some guy who bought a space station. He was the one who blew it up. And the galaxy was about to learn his name. A new beginning. A war without an end. Jax Carter should have been dead. He had bought a broken space station for $1, discovered it was actually a forgotten war relic, and found himself trapped with a group of stunning yet deadly alien women, all while awakening a long-buried warlord who had been sealed away for centuries. And then, in a last desperate move, he had blown up the entire station. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't, because the warlord wasn't dead. And Jax had just painted a target on his back. Drifting through the void, Jax's body ached. His ribs felt like cracked glass, his side still burned from the plasma blade wound, and every breath felt too heavy, too slow, like he wasn't quite alive, but not quite dead either. He opened his eyes. The ceiling above him wasn't metal. It was glass, clear, stretching wide, revealing the endless, star-freckled abyss of space. Jax blinked, trying to focus. Where? You're on my ship, came a voice. He turned his head, finding himself face to face with the golden-eyed woman, the one he had trusted, the one who had lied to him. Jax let out a slow, pained laugh. Great, kidnapped again. She tilted her head, watching him. You were dying. Jax groaned, forcing himself to sit up. Yeah, well, I was also trying to kill a warlord. And it didn't work, did it? The golden-eyed woman's expression hardened. No. Jax cursed under his breath. The station was gone. But the warlord was still out there. And that meant one thing. He would come back. The rise of the warlord. Jax pulled himself to the edge of the cot, swinging his legs over. The pain in his side screamed, but he ignored it. So tell me, he muttered. How bad is it? The golden-eyed woman hesitated. Then she pressed a button on the console near the window. A holographic map flickered to life in the air between them. Jax's stomach dropped. A fleet, hundreds of ships, was gathering near the edges of the outer systems. They call themselves the Second Dominion now, she said. But we both know what that means. Jax clenched his fists. It means the warlord's still alive. The golden-eyed woman nodded. And now he has an army. Jax let out a long breath. So he's coming back. She turned to him. Not just coming back. She touched the hologram again, zooming in on a central flagship, a massive warship shaped like a floating fortress, bristling with weapons and surrounded by thousands of smaller fighters. He's coming to conquer. Jax stared at the enemy fleet, feeling a weight settle in his chest. He's gonna burn entire planets, isn't he? The golden-eyed woman nodded. Jax pressed a hand over his wound. Well, that's just fantastic. A choice to make. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Jax exhaled, rubbing a hand over his face. Okay, so tell me, what's the plan? The golden-eyed woman looked away. Jax frowned. Wait, don't tell me you don't have a plan. She hesitated. We weren't supposed to survive. Jax froze. Excuse me. The golden-eyed woman finally looked at him, her golden eyes troubled. Destroying the station was supposed to be the end. It was the only way to stop him. Jax ran a hand through his hair. Well, obviously, that didn't work, did it? Her expression darkened. No, it didn't. Jax inhaled sharply. Then we need a new plan. She folded her arms. And what would that be? Jax didn't answer right away. Because he had no idea. How did you stop a warlord who couldn't be killed? How did you fight against an unstoppable army? Then a thought crept into his mind. An insane, reckless, completely suicidal idea. But it was the only idea. Jax looked up. We don't fight him, he said slowly. The golden-eyed woman frowned. Then what do we do? Jax exhaled. We steal his army. The impossible mission. The golden-eyed woman stared at him. You want to what? Jax grinned, despite the pain wrecking his body. You said it yourself. He's not just a warlord. He's a tyrant. And tyrants rule, I fear. She folded her arms. And fear isn't loyalty, Jax said. So if we can convince his people to turn against him. She shook her head. It won't work. Jax leaned forward. Won't it? He gestured to the hologram. This fleet, it's built on fear. You really think every single one of those soldiers wants to die for him? The golden-eyed woman hesitated. Jax pressed on. He was locked away for centuries. His power is terrifying, sure, but do you really think every last person in that fleet is blindly loyal? If we can find a way to break his hold over them. She narrowed her eyes. Then we weaken him. Jax nodded. A slow smile spread across her lips. It's a stupid idea, she said. Jax smirked. Yeah, but it might just work. A new beginning. Jax stood up, ignoring the pain. He wasn't just an unlucky engineer anymore. He wasn't just the idiot who had bought a cursed station for $1. He was the man who had defied a warlord and lived. And now, He was going to end this war before it even began. The golden-eyed woman held out her hand. "Then let's steal an army." Jax took it, and together they stepped into the future, toward the war to come.